Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, legionnaires of all ages, welcome back to the Wrestling Legion Weekly Podcast. Welcome back to In Our Opinion. I'm Nick the Geek, and I'm joined, of course, by my two cohorts, my two co-conspirators, and my two co-hosts. I'm joined by the blondest man in all of wrestling media. Joined by what?
It's not as blonde now, mate. I'm going to have to get a new tagline. Sorry.
You're going to have to get a new intro. Right, hang on, let me think of something.
Well, that's a byproduct.
I'm joined by the wisest man in all of wrestling media. I'm joined by the Paul Heyman of the airways. I'm joined by Simon. Simon, how the hell are you doing?
Really good, mate. It's been a long, sleepy Sunday afternoon, and I'm ready to talk some wrestling.
Nice. And we are joined, technical issues aside, by the Redeemer himself. Andy, how are you doing?
Hello, Nick.
That's just why we keep him around, ladies and gentlemen. Sterling comments like that. Right. All right, lads. Now, it's been a decent week. It's been a good week of wrestling. Simon, how the hell have you enjoyed the week of wrestling? And how has wrestling treated you this week?
I guess we started off with Saturday night's main event, didn't we, last weekend?
Yes.
Thoroughly good show. We had a pretty good week. Raw, SmackDown, there's lots of things happening. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been uneventful.
Yeah.
You know, we can talk about a lot of speculation and, dream matchmaking and things like that. But there is one thing I'd like to read you guys. That's okay.
I believe I guessed.
Yeah. So just broken on Twitter within the last hour. Sorry, X within the last hour or two. Ron Killings has changed his name back to Ron Killings for a start, and he's posted. I'm sorry to inform you all, I just got released from WWE. I want to thank WWE for the ride, but mostly I want to thank each and every one of you who was along for the ride. Thank you for all the love, support, and appreciation you've given me over the years. Thank you.
Well, that is certainly breaking news. Andy, what do you think? Do you think this is some kind of worked storyline that Truth is involved in, considering his character? Or do you think there's a chance that this is legit, considering there have been a lot of releases of late?
I think it's legit. I don't think he'd do that. Do you know what I mean? When it comes to that, I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a bit like surprised, should we say?
Yeah.
Because I just feel like Truth is always solid, but at the same time, it's kind of how long does he go on for? And if he's just finishing his how old is he now?
He's like
52.
52, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just finishing off a contract, so. It's no different than a football team or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Just finishing off.
They've literally just started off a feud with him and the Bloodline. He was meant to be going into a thing with Jeff Cobb. Sorry, JC Navarro.
JC
Mateo. Yeah. Sorry about the flashing. My camera is being very strange.
It's all right.
I get a feeling it might keep doing this.
Well, it's certainly atmospheric. Now you just got to keep doing that for the entire video.
Yeah, I might have to turn this off and back on.
Technical issues, ladies and gentlemen. What can you say? Right, but no, now it's insanely bright.
Okay, it's constant. No, it's not, is it? Why?
Right, well, I'll give my bit of 2 cents on this. I'm with you, Andy. I don't think this is a storyline.
No.
I don't see why. I mean, there is the chance that they are using social media to further a storyline. It does happen, but not when it's over the release of one of their stars/wrestlers. I think these things are usually taken a bit more seriously. I think they're usually done in a bit more straightforward of a manner. I'm gutted if he has been released. I always thought R-Truth was a lifer, but as you say, the man's in his 50s. How much more can he do?
Yeah.
But to end it in the middle of a storyline or at the start of a new storyline just doesn't make any sense. So I'm already straight away thinking, could this lead to like another classic R-Truth con? And I don't know, maybe R-Truth's been let go, but maybe Maybe Ron Cena still works for them. I don't know.
It's entirely
Sorry about this light, guys.
It's all right, Si. We can still see you. Well, I can still see you.
I mean, you know, you don't know what the things are. Maybe it's WWE. Maybe it's Ron himself who says, you know what, I've probably got about 2 years left of actually doing anything. Let me see what's going on out there where I can just grab that last bit of money. Maybe they didn't give him the offer that he wanted. You know, it could be something like that. But I mean, the one thing I'd say with him, he's been great. He's been absolutely brilliant. But at the same time, it's like it's no different than football or any other sport where it's like you get to a certain point and it's kind of like, okay, well, you know, you're getting on them. Yeah. And I think that's probably what is the score with him, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Like I said, I hope it's not the case. I love Truth. He's very entertaining. He makes me laugh. And I like to see him on my television. But if it is the case, I wish him all the best. I hope that whatever he decides to do in his, to quote WWE, future endeavors, that he has all the luck in the world and finds exactly what he wants out there in the big wide world of the indie market.
Yeah. You know, I hope to be fair as well as if they do at some point to bring him back as a general manager or something, it'd be class.
Well, I suppose there's every chance he goes to TNA. He did start there.
Yeah, maybe that's what the thing is, or you know, he goes over to AAA or something. I don't know, but I think he's definitely going to go in the Hall of Fame next year. It'd be stupid if he didn't. Absolutely stupid if he didn't put him.
Oh yeah, completely and utterly.
Yeah. No, if there's
but he is a first ballot. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer if there ever was one.
Yeah.
Right. Well, change the subject, lads. I want to talk about something else because I don't like talking about people being released all the time. It's depressing. It was AEW Double or Nothing last weekend. Now, I don't want to talk about the show. I want to talk about the length of the show. It was 4 hours and 44 minutes long. Is this too long for a wrestling show? Andy?
Yes. Simple answer, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think it is when it's just match after match after match after match. You know, WWE, I know they go a bit too far the other way, but I think AEW go too far the other way, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the problem we've got at the moment. We've got one company who puts far too much slosh in between, and then you've got another company who do far too much wrestling on it.
This is the problem I have. Like, we're all old fans here. We grew up, in the 90s? We watched every pay-per-view that we could possibly buy when we were younger. And the average length of those pay-per-views was 2.5 to 3 hours. I think that's always been the sweet spot. I think that'll always be the length a pay-per-view should be, is 3 hours at max.
Yeah.
Si, I know you don't really watch AEW shows in the meantime, but I know for a fact, because we've been with you, that sometimes you struggle when it's late, especially, to get through a 3.5 hour pay-per-view.
Well, I mean, that's more a thing of living in the UK. You know, you get to a certain age and you want to be in bed by 10, 11 o'clock at night. It makes it hard to like commentate on live wrestling, watch live wrestling too often. Because the days are just too long. But yeah, no, my views on this is it is too long. Is that including the pre-show or without the pre-show?
No, that was included. That was not including the pre-show, I believe. I will Google this. Give me a second.
Wow. Yeah, because for me, like you say, it's like a one extreme to the other. WWE at the minute are kind of following Triple H's NXT blueprint and having 5 matches, hard-hitting matches on a show. Tends to go 3 to 3.5 hours. Now that's great. But they've got far too much bullshit and recaps and production and internal advertisements between each match. That means you could really get 6, 7 matches on that same amount of time. On the flip side of it, AEW isn't doing nearly enough recaps and story catch-ups and things. There's not enough story being told. There's too much in-ring, not enough story. And when it comes to the actual matches, like 11 matches on a show, over 4 hours, it's just too much. It's just too much. I haven't got the attention span for that these days. Particularly when looking at the card, there was 2 or 3 attractive matches, big matches on there. But there was half a dozen
so
matches
it was
that shouldn't even have been on there.
The show, not including 0 hour, was approximately 3 hours and 44 minutes long. So including the pre-show was 4 hours and 44 minutes long.
Yeah, but 11 is too many. I think ideally for me, a wrestling show needs to go between 3.5 hours, and it needs 5 to 7 matches.
This is the thing. I mean, Si, you're wearing a New Japan shirt. You and I are both very big New Japan fans.
Yep.
A Wrestle Kingdom will run 4 hours. Well, Wrestle Kingdom is their version of WrestleMania, and that includes the pre-show. So they have an hour-long pre-show and then a 3-hour main card. Now, a lot of the time, I won't watch the pre-show for Wrestle Kingdom because it's not that important. Nothing happens on it that is mainstay or that you need to see, so I'll skip it. And Wrestle Kingdom is a nice, manageable 3-hour show. And this is the biggest show of the year. This was AEW's arguably second biggest show of the year. And I'd also like to point out, for those AEW stands in the comments who are going to have a go at us for being WWE shills, AEW's largest card of the year was outsold by NXT Battleground.
Can I add to that? For me personally, anybody that's watching the show that's saying, "Oh, you're a fathead," I've been to TNA live over a dozen times, been to New Japan live, I've been to AEW live, I've been to the original ECW live. I've seen pretty much every company going live, so it's not a case of that. It's just a case of not having enough time to watch everything nowadays.
Dale is in the comments. Hey guys, first time, long time. What was the last time you guys over there turned on a pay-per-view and from here and are so disgusted that you turned it off?
I can tell you exactly when that was for me, and that was at the original All In when a certain wrestler, a different character of Gigi Dolan, used the tampon. That was too much.
Yeah, that was a bit.
Yeah,
you know what? I'm probably gonna have to steal that one and agree with you, sir.
Yeah, I think that one. What was the one with the needle in the face?
Oh, Hangman versus Swerve in the cage.
Yeah, I turned that off because I was like,
yeah.
So like it just didn't. Sometimes I just feel like it's done. I'm not against violence in wrestling or anything like that, in the slightest. But it's like when it's warranted, and I didn't think that was warranted whatsoever.
No,
you know what I mean?
No, it wasn't.
No need for it. No need for it.
No,
it's completely unnecessary.
Yeah, and
it's what it is, but yeah, don't say that.
I'll say the Sai has a great point, but as on the match times and it's a turn off. That's the point, mate. Yeah, sometimes when you've got the long matches as well, but then you've got the shorter matches on WWE that could probably go a little bit longer or shorter, depending on what pay-per-view it is. Like that's where it gets me.
Well, the happy medium, I think you'll agree, lads, at the moment is actually TNA wrestling. I don't know if either of you have been watching TNA over the last few weeks, but I keep an eye on it, especially since the relationship with WWE has started. And not only are their pay-per-views solid, their pay-per-views are always just under 3 hours long. They have about 7 matches on. There is virtually no guff. And as a general rule, it's quite a solid, good, watchable show.
Yeah.
And as you say, on the other side of the door, we have WWE on one side filling the show with far too much guff and advertising and Netflix and everything else. Whereas AEW, as you said, Si, they go so far in the other direction. Now, I know they're supposed to be an alternative to WWE, but that doesn't mean you want to bore half your fan base to death, especially with a great deal of matches that don't need to be on pay-per-view.
It's not right. To clarify, it's not even the length of the matches. If a match is good, I have absolutely no issue spending an hour and 15 minutes watching a single match. But you just can't justify it. I mean, what were the first couple of matches on the show? Because I didn't watch it.
Andy, did you watch it?
No.
Here we go. I stayed up. I was intending to watch it. But unfortunately, I never got around to it. I know that Will Ospreay and Adam Page, which is the main event, went 49 minutes. And I know that Anarchy in the Arena.
That was another pet peeve of mine. Who's the face? There's no face in the match.
Well, Will's the babyface now.
Will Ospreay will never be a babyface, dude.
No. But he is. He's being presented as one by AEW.
Here we go. Wikipedia. Let's have a look. Right. Yeah. So the first match on there was Mercedes Moné, Jamie Hayter. Do you know what? To be fair, out of those 11 matches, 2 were dark matches, so it is only 9.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still too many matches, and you've got like 2 multi-man matches back to back, and you I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, one thing I will say about Moné, why did she win that? Unbelievable. I mean,
yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm looking forward to her versus Tony, but just because, to be fair, I don't watch AEW nowadays, but I do catch up with the clips when they come online and whatnot. And I did see their little interaction on Dynamite this week, which was really good. To be fair, I think that's all Tony. I think Tony's the one that's going to elevate Mercedes. And stupidly, Tony Khan will probably be thinking in his head, Moné's going to be the one that elevates this. And it's like, no, it's definitely not.
I think they're both great. I do.
The storyline will always bring back interest to AEW and start doing angles of Christian Jericho WrestleMania 20. Good story and match. How would you book that for AEW, Simon?
I'm straight up out of touch with the AEW's women's division. I know about Mercedes Moné. I know about Toni Storm. Most of the other women that used to wrestle there when I used to watch it have probably moved on. So I'm going to let one of you guys answer that.
Well, what do you think about Mariah May moving on?
Mariah May moving to WWE. That was what I was going to bring up after this. So we might as well move on to that now.
And a lot of the internet kind of saw her as like a wish version of Tiffany, and Tiffany ain't great. So I'm not too excited, to be honest.
Mariah's really good. Her feud with Tony. Her feud with Tony now, admittedly, Tony does a lot of the work in all of her feuds.
Yeah,
Mariah May did a fantastic job as the what's the word I'm looking for? Antagonist to Tony Storm's protagonist in their storyline.
Wasn't it like very, very similar to? And bear in mind, I just kind of watched this casually, or it was in the background. Like, what wasn't it similar to when Mickie James turned on Trish Stratus, kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. If you were going to compare it to anything, it'd be Mickie and Trish. Less sexual innuendos, but Mickie and Trish. However,
personally, give her a run in NXT. Let's see how she gets on. But
that's literally what I was going to say. With NXT losing Jordynne Grace and Stephanie McCurr this week, Jordan's going to SmackDown. Stephanie's been signed by Raw. They officially announced it. Now, I think Mariah will fill a very good spot on the NXT roster. They've just lost a couple of big names. They need someone to fill that gap. I think Mariah May is a perfect person to fill that gap. She's got a very beautiful Toxic Attraction type vibe to her character for WWE, and I think they'll do it well.
She's not terrible in the ring either, Mariah May. I don't think.
Well, no, she's a Stardom girl, and unless you have to be good to survive in Stardom for 5 years.
Yeah, I think she is quite good there. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about because they brought Stephanie Vacher into it and said both of them have gone to WWE for less money than what AEW were offering. And, over a contract period, it may be more money on that one contract, but I think I said this before with Okada, it's kind of like, for mainstream opportunities and things like that, WWE is the place to go, isn't it? You know what I mean? So,
Yes.
with Fakir and May, yeah, they might, it's that old saying, speculate to accumulate. The two of them will probably do a lot better in the long term by going to WWE than what they would do staying in AEW.
It's not just that, and I hate to use this as an allegory, but most wrestlers did not grow up wishing to work in AEW.
No. There's pictures of Mariah May outside WrestleMania 30, I think it was, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they didn't. But also, as I say, if you look at it just from a pure business point of view, it's like, yeah, you might not get it in that first contract, but eventually you'll probably get the money. But also, the exposure and everything else you're getting worldwide.
The total business and financial gain is a lot higher, plausibly, in WWE than it is in AEW. AEW, you will get a fat money over the long haul. Basically, AEW, yes, you'll get a fat big money contract, but you're not going to get the opportunity later on down the line to end up in movies.
Yeah,
and Mercedes Moné can say what she likes, but she wouldn't have got to end up in Star Wars if it wasn't for the fact that she was in WWE at the time.
Well, if you look at...
she was the star of The Mandalorian, let's not forget that.
Oh, God, I know.
All four of her lines.
Well, if you look at, take away the movies and stuff, even if you look at it from a thingy perspective, the indie perspective, who's left AEW and gone on to be a big indie star, or let's look at like Sonny Kiss, people like that. Don't really hear of them after they leave AEW.
No,
you know what I mean. Where
Joey Janela was already a big indie star before.
Yeah. So these are different kettle of fish. But then you look at WWE, and bloody hell, mate, they all get somewhere, don't they, after they leave? So it's like,
yeah. Look at Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona is the perfect example.
Well, he's a bit of a thing for the real, but look at like fucking Dana Brooke, people like that who go out on the indies and they're doing well, and then she went with TNA, didn't she? And whatever else is like, they always seem to do all right after they leave. Where can the same be said for AEW? And I don't mean AEW stars as in like ones that have come over, but the homegrown ones.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Ones that have not been anywhere else but AEW.
Yeah. Well, on the subject of people moving up, besides Stephanie Vaquer and Jordan Grace, rumor has it that also the newly done Ricky Saints will be moving up to the main roster. I'm all for this. I don't know where they're going to put him. Do you think he fits more on Raw or SmackDown, guys?
SmackDown.
SmackDown.
Yeah,
really? Why?
Because Raw seems to have the bigger names. SmackDown has become more of like the wrestling show. I think you've got a lot of guys on there. You look across the roster, guys like Ray Phoenix. You've got a lot of guys on SmackDown that could do a lot of good with it.
Yeah, I'll give you that. They could.
There's already a lot of good talkers on Raw.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think Ricky's personality would bring a lot to SmackDown. Like, he's got
I'll be honest, I'm getting a bit fed up with SmackDown at the moment. It's the one show that I'm kind of like, ugh, do you know what I mean? Not like...
Really? Why?
It's all the bloodline stuff, to be honest with you, with Solo, and that just does me head in. It's like it's just gone on for so bloody long, and they just keep rinsing and repeating it, you know what I mean? Which just
but in the long run, think of it this way. Everything they're doing right now is to elevate one man and one man only. Our Lord and Savior, Jacob Fatu.
Yeah, which, and I get that. Like, I really like Jacob. I don't know. Which I think I've got a bit of a fatigue from the whole bloodline stuff.
Scotland Cross with highest paid talents on the Indies. Yes, they would. On that subject, Karrion Kross. Now, we all, Si, you were there, but we all got to see, I'm assuming we've all seen Kross's shoot promo from WrestleMania weekend. Yes, it was a good bit of work. He did exactly what he needed to do to get himself noticed, to get people to get people's chin wagging, etc. I think he's done a marvelous job. I think he's in a strong position. In a strong position in WWE at the moment. A lot of people seem to think he's going to win Money in the Bank, or should win Money in the Bank. I'm of the opinion that Money in the Bank is not the direction for Kross to go.
Ooh.
What do you guys think?
Totally disagree with you.
Okay.
I think it makes him. I think sometimes with the case they use it softly and they use it stupidly. I think it makes him. Now, I don't know how you're going to do it with Cross once he gets it, but if you go back to when he was doing that stuff with AJ, you know, where he just kept turning up and with the smile and some of the stuff he was saying, and that is like
His master manipulator angle.
yeah. It's like I think there's something there with that, and
Oh, I'd agree.
I don't think you do the same thing with the Money in the Bank, but he's shown he can carry himself with outside of the ring as well, which I always felt was Karrion's problem. Where now I feel like he's shown a lot more personality recently, which is really good for him. And I'm interested.
I have a weird idea.
Mm.
When I say that Money in the Bank isn't the path for him, I mean the Money in the Bank match. I didn't say the briefcase.
Why not the match?
I don't think he should be in the match. I don't think it fits his character. However, what would fit his character is manipulating his way into a match for the briefcase after someone has already done the hard work of winning the briefcase. His whole character is he manipulates everybody to get what he wants. Well, who's to say that he wouldn't manipulate whoever the winner was to get himself in a position where that briefcase could then
Really? That's how you see Karrion?
Yes.
No,
He's a good guy who just gives everyone helpful and friendly advice. his own advancement and progress is irrelevant.
Yeah. No, I will give him Money in the Bank if it was me.
Yeah, Cross has been great recently, and we've had a trend of like certain wrestlers becoming heels on social media for no apparent reason, like Bianca Belair. Certain wrestlers getting super over for no apparent reason. And I think it goes back, doesn't it? Like the organic kind of like internet IWC fandom. It goes back to the times of Matt Cardona when Zack Ryder first brought in the Internet Championship. Even before that, to like Mick Foley, it's like when you get a wave of support for someone, 9 times out of 10, they benefit from it. They might not get all the way to the top, but they ride it. And I think Karrion Kross is kind of like on the cusp of that at the minute. I think we're going to see something with him, and he deserves it.
Yeah,
he does.
Yeah.
And to anyone who says he doesn't deserve it, just go watch his work in Lucha Underground or TNA.
But whatever you do not Google the man that trained him, because it'll put you off for life.
Yes, it will. Unless your name is Jimmy. Shout out to the King, my other co-host. And you would like to find us on Fridays over on the Friday Nitro Review on YouTube and on Spotify. Please do. We'll be back this week. We've been away for a couple of weeks because of WrestleMania and my computer died. So, yeah. But we're going to be back this week. And we're going to carry on.
Well, that's a good little segue.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, so, back from the intermission. I've got something I'd like to talk about, guys, that I'd like to get your opinion about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Of course it is.
Have you guys read what MVP has put out there this week?
Oh, about
Triple H is apparently a racist.
Triple H is vehemently racist. I forget this isn't an exact quote, but he's basically saying that Bobby Lashley went from being the world champion to the United States champion, and that is
being mid-carder was his exact words.
Yeah, now
mid-carder Triple H is racist. No. We can get into this. Fine. I'd like to point out that Bobby Lashley is now a mid-carder in AEW.
Well, that's what I'm getting to. So the whole point of like P, and I've always been a huge MVP fan, way back to when he was Intercontinental Champion over in Japan, before his WWE days. It's like I've always been a fan of the guy, watched him through TNA everywhere. And quite honestly, I think he's racist. I'm not. There's no other way of saying it. What has happened to Bobby Lashley in WWE, going from a WWE champ to a US champ, okay, has happened in the past to men like, for example, Bret Hart, Daniel Bryan, John Cena. There's a long list of non-black wrestlers that have been in the same situation. CM Punk, yeah. It's just how the card works, and he's smart enough to know that. So why is he making it a racial thing? Why is he race baiting with it? It's not all about race, you know. It's really soured me to MVP. Bobby Lashley, MVP, is complaining he's dropped down the card in WWE and he was treated as a mid-card champion, and yet he's happy for him to be in AEW, where, as you've just pointed out, he is a tag team champion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, can somebody please make this make sense?
I'd love to make this make sense, but the only answer I can give you to make it make sense is two things. One, MVP is a bit of a racist. Or two,
A bit.
MVP is playing the race card to get attention.
Yeah. Because let's not forget, I mean, Tony Khan's always been so good with the black talent, hasn't he? Big swell.
Yeah. Tony's always been. Anyway.
Well, don't forget the Young Bucks with the first.
I'm a big Lashley fan. Yeah. Lashley should have more than that tag title right now. But wrestlers need to be booked on talent, nothing more. Triple H is like 100% right. Not letting color, not letting diversity affect his booking. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it is. And if you want to call Triple H a racist, Triple H books Evolve. And Evolve just had their first ever women's champion crowned. And it's a woman by the name of Callie Armstrong, who is black. Yeah. Which I think said a lot for Evolve, considering they'd never had a women's championship before. And I thought it said a lot putting on a black woman in the first place, because Vince would never have done that. And to call Triple H vehemently racist is, I believe, vehemently racist.
Isn't Naomi getting a good push at the moment?
Yes, she's just won Money in the Bank. She's just qualified for Money in the Bank.
You look across the roster. You look across, right, Raw and SmackDown, and you've got you got Phoenix, you got Penta, you got Jade Cargill, you got Naomi, you got Carmelo Hayes, you got Andrade. The amount of non-white talent that's been all over their TV shows and PLEs recently is
thank you, Zay. Thank you.
I don't get why anybody has any issue for it.
Can we just make an acknowledgement as well of the fact that Jey Uso is a world champion at the moment?
Yeah. Samoa. Exactly. Non-white.
The Rock's on the board of directors.
So if we look at the moment, right, both sets of tag team champions are black.
Yeah.
You've got Jacob Fatu and world champion are both Samoan.
Yeah.
What have we got on the women? Obviously got Tiffy on one side.
We've got an Irish woman and a Barbie doll on the other side.
Well, you've got a Japanese champion, haven't you, as well?
Yeah, we've got a Japanese champion, we've got an Irish champion, we've got a complete Barbie doll and Tiffany Stratton. And then you have a Latino in Zelina Vega.
And then you've got Obafemi in NXT, so
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
people bitch about how few specifically black talent there was at WrestleMania. I mean, you had the New Day, you had Naomi and Jade. There was lots. Why is that single demographic any more important than anything else? Right? As a white straight Englishman, there was no one that represented me on WrestleMania. There was no English wrestlers on that show.
No.
Wait, Barry.
No.
You live with it. You watch the talent for the talent.
Yeah.
Age, race, religion, sex, sexuality is nothing to do with anything. Sorry, run over.
No, it's fine. I agree.
It's right. You're right, mate. 100% right. What do I always say? Best in class.
Yeah, I mean? The simple fact is we were talking about, to use a slightly related subject, we were talking about participation trophies the other day, Andy. And just because you work somewhere, you should not be given a participation trophy because of the colour of your skin.
No.
You should earn, it doesn't matter where you're from, what colour, race, or creed you are, you should earn your spot. It doesn't matter if you're a professional wrestler, an amateur wrestler, a track athlete, whatever you happen to be, you should earn your spot.
Yep.
That's the way it goes, mate. You know, you look at YouTube as well. What's that YouTuber, Speed? I Show Speed or whatever his name is. I'll let him in the Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because do you know why? I'll give you the secret, mate. Because there was money there.
Yeah.
So it just, I think Triple H is only racist towards green. That's what he wants to make. That's what he wants to make for his company. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, I'm afraid.
Absolutely not. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's the way it goes, mate. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you could get a lot of people over the years who'll come in and do better. You know what I mean? And then they might get that, you know. But then there might be people who are white again who come on top. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter.
Well,
and to be fair, he's a bit of a gobshite for saying that because, you know, I'm sure there's probably kids that remember him from the hair business and, you know, putting that kind of ideology. It's people like him that cause these problems. Do you know what I mean? Just because he's not getting his own way, he starts shouting his mouth off like that. And it's like, it's wrong. It's totally wrong.
No, I agree. I completely agree. Right, well, to move it along slightly, still WWE related, but this weekend is Money in the Bank. And this weekend this coming weekend is Worlds Collide. Now, Simon, Andy, you've never had the joy of watching Triple Mania with us, have you?
No.
We'll get around to it at some point. You need to watch a Triple Mania with us, especially considering this year's Triple Mania will probably be the best production Triple A has ever had in its entire history of existence.
I think I've seen one before. I'm sure I've seen like a turtle wrestle on there or something.
Well, just so you know, the last Triple Mania we watched had a cease and desist Marvel Comics Battle Royal, where they had a man about 10 stone heavier than you, painted green, burst out of a cardboard box wall, dressed as the Incredible Hulk. They had a man dressed as Spider-Man who was afraid of heights and stopped himself on a zip line that he was shooting down to the ring on and just sat there for the entire match. It was hilarious. And Vampiro gave us the immortal line, "This is a dope-ass chocolate bar, Matt."
Not to mention La Parka running in entirely the wrong match
4 times,
and then realizing and then going off again and then coming back again, and oh my god, there's like 4 La Parka run-ins. It was
4
crazy.
times. Now
it is single-handedly the worst and also the funniest wrestling show I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
but let's not let that reflect what Treble At is, because it's a really good company at times.
What I was going to say is AAA is synonymously known as the worst wrestling in the world.
No.
However, I don't think it's going to be anymore because it has some of the best. It has some of the best wrestlers in the world. Yeah. One of them who's on that bag, and WWE paying so much attention to this young man that not only was he the first person announced for the show, not only have they announced that he's defending the AAA Mega Championship against Chad Gable at Worlds Collide before he's even won it from Alberto Del Rio.
He has now.
He's won it now. There we go. But Vikingo, I am so excited to see on a big stage because we have both, well, the 3 of us have all had the pleasure of seeing him live and meeting the man. He is not only absolutely tiny, but one of the nicest, hardest working, and fastest human beings I have ever seen in a wrestling ring. The stuff he is physically capable of doing boggles the mind. I cannot wait to see this Chad Gable match. What do you guys think?
I totally agree. It's going to be an amazing match. Big fan of El Hijo del Vikingo. Everything you've said about him has been right. Gable is a great first opponent. He's based, he's grounded, he's got the whole thing. Oh, sorry, allegedly, he's got the whole thing going on with the luchadors. But I've got to think past this, just purely for like athleticism, speed in the ring. How good at some point will it be to see Vikingo against Frazier?
Oh yeah,
just imagine those two crisscrossing, running the ropes. You wouldn't be able to keep up with it.
Yeah,
it's great. I'm really looking forward to the match. How about you, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, you know my thoughts, dudes. LA weekend, Vikingo was the superstar for me. It was unreal. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of like, I remember we were at a Ring of Honor, and I'll be honest, got there, I was dead excited because, you know, I'd never been to a Ring of Honor show. Quickly found out it was more AEW than Ring of Honor, and was kind of like, oh, and then I seen him, and I was like, ooh, who's this? And then we actually were lucky enough to see him the second time in the night, again, GCW. Along them lines of kind of, let's have a look at this car crash and see what it's like. And then Vikingo come out and you're like,
he is a little dude. He is.
He is a tiny man, especially when he stood next to this giant down below.
We got a cob on, didn't he, when he was standing next to me?
Yeah, he had to he stood up on his toes.
Yeah.
To be fair, back then as well, he didn't really speak a word of English, whereas he's picked up a little bit since.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, as I say, when we went to that other car crash as well, and he turns up again, and it was like, bloody hell, like this guy is, you kind of look, don't you, and go, woof, brilliant, absolutely brilliant he was.
Well, I count on you now.
And Andy can't even see the comments, can you?
I can,
need to read that.
Oh,
you can. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
He's ignoring a little douchebag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing about that tale is that the Vikingo was actually stood on like a crate like this big.
Yeah. He stood on a beer crate while he was next to Andy. It was hilarious. But that is besides the point. Worlds Collide is, by the looks of it, going to be a can't miss show for me. Are you guys looking forward to it? I mean, that US title, the North American Championship 4-way, Ethan Page defending against Phoenix, Javon Evans, and Laredo Kid should be an absolute banger.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but there's a lot I'm looking forward to seeing on that show. There's some like really tempting matches on paper. It's going to be a great introduction for fans that haven't seen AAA. But
I mean, there's one match it's got
Can I just put one thing out there? That I am really, really, really hoping we don't have a 6-sided ring.
Yes, I would agree. And I'm hoping we don't have a 6-sided ring with 5 inches of the cheapest memory foam you've ever heard of.
Let's not have it be bright, luminous yellow either, because it hurts the eyes after a while. Apart from that, I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be good. Has anyone seen the results from last night?
Last night?
Yeah, so obviously it was Del Rio versus Vikingo last night.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know how that would go anyway. He won. But JBL had a crack on there. I tell you what, he's got balls in,
He had a what?
A great promo. He basically stood in the ring, and told them all that that the whole of Mexico was scum.
Border hopping scumbags.
Oh mate, it proper just got me. I was laughing my head off, and I was like,
"Well, you got to remember this is a man who, during this feud with Eddie Guerrero, went to the American-Mexico border and patrolled it, kicking families back up the border. He doesn't care what people think. That's
No, but he went to Mexico and told them what he thought of them.
That's because he doesn't care.
Yeah,
JBL believes in getting heat for heat's sake.
Yeah,
and I love him for it.
Yeah, but if you get a chance, go and watch that because it was class. You know what I mean? It was absolute class. So I don't know whether he's going to be involved more with AAA now or whatnot, or whether they're just doing this thing. But yeah, absolute class. Brilliant. I love JBL. And then, again, that was what got me. He was just thinking of the whole Eddie thing. And I was like, yeah, it's all right doing that from WWE, but to go to AAA and stand there and call them all brown idiots. That's great. Absolutely brilliant. Wow. I want to pop something in then while we're talking.
Go on.
So, I know me and you had a little talk about this the other day, say about bad wrestling rumours and stuff like that. All stuff that's been going around and kind of the misinformation and things like that. I think I said to say the other week about SummerSlam tickets. They were saying that they were like $2,000 or whatever, and I was looking online and there was like tickets for like £400 on the floors. There was other stuff going on, but WrestleMania 42 is what I want to talk about. So, Dave Meltzer was coming out, wasn't he? Same as Ross Sapp, like, it's going to Vegas, it's going all this. Have you seen the stuff that's come out in the last 2 days? Apparently now Vegas is getting used as a bargaining chip for for other places and stuff like that. So it's like,
really?
Yeah, apparently so. And it just makes me look and go, so why are you saying this stuff in the first place if you don't even know what you're on? I mean, I know why it is for clicks, but it just shows you not to really pay attention to anything.
I don't believe a word that Dave Meltzer. I haven't believed a word that Dave Meltzer said for the past 10 years.
Yeah,
unless it was about Japan.
Dave Meltzer, in the nicest possible way, let me say this as positively as possible. He's one man with his own opinion.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
But I think every wrestle votes and a lot of them were all jumping on the whole.
I was writing wrestling articles on the internet back in '95. Probably before Meltzer. I don't know. Someone will have to look at that. But it's just one man's opinion, you know.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think I'm giving Dave a bit of a bad rap here because it's not just him. There's been so many of them who are all saying stuff at the moment.
But
I feel
just to add on, when it comes to what we're talking about here, it has got to be said that announcing WrestleMania to be in New Orleans or anywhere and then going back on that is bad business.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I can't believe they did it, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. One, because we were all looking forward to going to New Orleans.
I think for me, though, it's not just that. It's why. Do you know what I mean? Because if it's not in Vegas or there's something else that's going on there, it's like, well, why move it then? You know, I don't like it, but I get it. If, say, for instance, like Vegas are coming in after them a truckload of money or whatever, yeah, I get that. But if now it's kind of like, okay, well, they're now using Vegas to draw other interest. So what's actually happened there then? Did New Orleans say they can't afford
far as
the money?
I know,
as
far as I am aware, I don't know how accurate these are because it comes from internet pundits. So is it true? But the rumor was that WWE basically, one, because the current owners of TKO and Endeavor live in Vegas, they were very happy that the show was in Vegas.
Again, though, a lot of blah 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 because again,
exactly,
told now
it's a lot of blah blah.
Yeah.
And then also somebody turned around and said it was because WWE basically said they can make more money in Vegas than they can make in New Orleans. I don't see that being the case because I'm assuming WrestleMania is going to make the same amount of money regardless what city it lands in.
Yeah.
So there's two things I want to add here, right? Firstly, it seems like every year Mania has a biggest gate ever. But there's this thing called inflation that plays into that. It doesn't necessarily mean it's done better business than the year before. And secondly, going to the arena, watching WrestleMania in Vegas, it was a great experience. We didn't get the best WrestleMania this year, but the arena was great. The city was great. The organization was great. Maybe not so much for the world a couple of days before, but let's not get into that. It was a great WrestleMania location. So I've got absolutely no issues with them doing it again. You know, it's not the first time. We had WrestleMania 4 and 5, both at Trump Plaza. We had WrestleMania, 3 and 4, wasn't it? Then we had 5 and 8, both at the Superdome.
See, you know what? My problem isn't with them having it in Vegas again. To be honest, I'd actually, not being there, wouldn't mind going there. You know what I mean? I know you said, Si, about the way it was set up. It was quite easy to get around and stuff, which would be quite cool because LA was a bit of a nightmare, wasn't it? You know what I mean? To get around places and stuff. But, and obviously, there's a lot. Yeah. Well, that's... I was the best co-pilot going.
You were a great navigator, dude. You saved me maybe 20% of my breakdowns. Would have had.
But no, and there's a lot more you can do and experience in Vegas. Si, one of the first things you mentioned when you come home was the spear. You know what I mean? Which is non-wrestling related. So there's a lot of things you can see. Stuff like that. I'd like to experience. I really would. My thing is just the news that's coming out now is they're using it as bargaining chip, and it's like, okay, who are they bargaining to? Why are they bargaining? What's that all about? If that's the case, and the thing is, we won't know. Do you know what I mean? Because you never do these things. It's just over going what's getting said. But it's kind
I don't know. You're a resident businessman, Andy. Wouldn't you say it's bad business practice to approach hypothetically, say they were approaching London about having WrestleMania here? Wouldn't you say it's bad business basically turning around to that city, London in this case, and saying, oh, well, you could have WrestleMania, but they've already offered us this much?
I think London would be different. So I think I've said this before to you, Nick, or was it Si? I can't remember which one of you it was the other day. And I think with London, I know they're talking about NXT Europe again, and do they go differently than what they did last time and build a performance center, do all that stuff? Now, when you do stuff like that and you're building kind of like a base in a country or whatnot, there's a lot of funding and a lot of things that go into it where, a lot of the time you can end up not even paying for these things yourself. I know some of the studios that we have in this country for the films and stuff like that are pretty much funded by the government on the thing of what it's going to stimulate the economy and everything else that's going to bring in with the jobs and everything else that comes with it. And I don't know whether, if they ever do, if it is anything to do with London, I don't think the site fee is going to be the only thing with them. I think there's going to be a bigger conversation over if they want to do NXT Europe and build a performance center over here and do all that. That, you know, it's a good bargaining chip to throw into the deal to say, well, if you give us this, we're going to bring jobs to the economy. We're going to bring, you know, a lot of tourism over with the performance centers and all like that. Oh, and we'll give you WrestleMania as well on top of it. And there's more of a thing here. And then because of how NXT went, where it didn't, UK didn't do as well as what it potentially, and I know, you know, frigging COVID probably stifled that, and also it was done on a smaller scale. You could also look at the fact of, like, you know, well, if we're going to get this funded by the UK government, the actual exposure for us as a business is pretty limited, isn't it? You know what I mean? Where we can have a really good whack at this, but in terms of what we're throwing in our own money to get the startup going, it's not a lot, you know what I mean? So I think, I don't know, I'm speculating on this, but could that be something that is kind of included in them talks? Do you know what I mean? Because
it's highly possible.
You know, Heathrow's the hub of Europe, isn't it, really? Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
You know, I think infrastructure-wise for a WrestleMania, London's got it. It always has done, you know what I mean? But I think there's got to be more than just a site fee involved in it. For me.
I know we're English, and well, sorry, Andy, you're not English, you're Scouse, but you know what I mean. We're English, right? So we're a little bit biased. But is it not just, you know, would people of France, people of Spain, people of Italy not have the same valid arguments? I'm sure they all want WrestleMania as much as us. And I'm going to be honest, it's not happening. Not for years and years, if ever.
I agree.
I don't think weather,
because of the policing costs over here. It's not happening.
Yeah. Well, the policing costs will be covered by the government Monday. Same as when they...
No. When you hire Wembley, like when Tony Khan did All In, he had to cover the costs.
But don't forget, so when Tony Khan hired Wembley, he paid for Wembley, he paid for everything infrastructure-wise and that. I know for a fact the European finals, the Champions League finals that we've had over here, one, they haven't paid for it, for Wembley. And two, they didn't play for policing or event organisation. It was all covered by the UK government because, again, the stimulation and whatnot. Do you know what I mean? So same with the Olympics. When we had the Olympics over here, it was basically, you know, Britain paid for the Olympics as they do. Do you know what I mean? Because they look at
they're all like multi-night events, though. So I wonder if that makes a difference.
If the Champions League's only one.
WrestleMania is a multi-night event.
Yeah, it's a big event, isn't it? And
yeah,
I think also is like the time difference. You know, Netflix probably takes care, and that takes care of that now. The streaming services take care of that, and also, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not being funny, but you know, apart from America and Canada, you know, the rest of the world would probably be a lot better off having it in the UK or even Saudi, as we've seen before. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that we get it over here. It's just, you know, I think you're a bob on with the weather. Now, one thing that did interest me was when they announced that Money in the Bank is going to be at the end of August next year. And it kind of thinks to myself, like, you know, May's not a bad month in the UK. So, you know, if you did want to do a WrestleMania in the UK, do you move it to May and do it? Do you know what I mean? Which you could do. You know, there's no reason why you couldn't do that. So, you know, maybe that's and kind of the fact that, you know, I don't know. I know they were saying, Nick Khan said, didn't he, that he wanted to move the dates to be a bit more away from the April side of things. So, you know, you could do that. As I say, I'm not sitting here kind of grasping at straws, and I'm just giving my thoughts on what I think, how it could work, you know what I mean?
There were a lot of people.
I was just using London as an example. The point stands that I still think it's a bit hard business using another town as a bargaining chip when you are negotiating with one place.
So where's this come from? What's the source for this? This bargaining chip? What's the source?
It's all over the internet, mate. I think
where's it come from?
And a few others have been saying it now.
Because anyone can say that. Where's it come from? Who's seen it? Who's reported that? You know, to them.
Yeah. But this is the
Because it
problem.
just sounds like
Who reported that it was going to Vegas straight away? Do you know what I mean? It's like who told them that? So, and that's the problem, isn't it, with all of it? And that's where the speculation comes in. You know what I mean? As I say, when I'm saying about London, I'm not saying kind of it's going to happen or I'm hoping it happens. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm over the moon if it did happen, but it's kind of like, okay, well, you know, how does that happen differently? One thing with TKO is kind of, all right, we've got the American market. You know, how do we, you know, we've got this whole other bloody side of the world over there that we really need to drag in. How do we do that? You know what I mean? And how do we get it working? And something like a WrestleMania outside of USA, you probably do that. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the same with business when you go into different markets, isn't it? And I know they've got a good market over here, but something like that would just make it absolutely freaking crazy, wouldn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the UK market is, how can we say, or Europe in general, is probably a lot more conditioned to paying more for stuff like that. So I don't know. I honestly don't know which way it's going to go.
Right, lads, we are fast approaching that time of the day. So I would like your unpopular wrestling opinions, please.
Have we not given you enough?
Nope. Right, well, I'll go first while you two think. It's not really an opinion.
I got one.
Go on.
Okay. Oh, you go first.
It's not much of an opinion. It's more of an announcement. But I'm never watching AEW again.
Wow. Ooh, that's a strong one, dude. I mean, it could be good again.
I'm never watching AEW again because that waste of space Adam Hangman Page beat the best wrestler alive, Will Ospreay, in an hour-long match. And apparently they were all, oh, you should win before the match. And Tony still ballsed it up and had Hangman Adam Page win the match. I said to both of you, if Will Ospreay lost that match, I would not be watching AEW again. It's got nothing to do with kayfabe. It's got nothing to do with me being a mark. It's got the simple fact that Tony Khan has jobbed Will Ospreay out for a year. They turn around and say, oh, it doesn't hurt him because he's so good. Yes, it does. It jades him in the eyes of the fans. Fans tune in now expecting Will Ospreay to put on good matches where he loses. This is not how the greatest export in British wrestling history
Will
should be treated.
Ospreay exactly the same way I see Kazuchika Okada.
Yeah.
And that is, he has not been booked right at all. It's been an absolute fucking insult to the best in the business. And we're both right, in a sense. I don't even think that's an unpopular opinion, mate.
Well, it's the best I can come up with this week. So, okay. I won't be talking about AEW anymore on these podcasts unless it's something outstanding that happens. I will not be going out of my way to watch AEW television. I will not be watching any more AEW pay-per-views. Thank God it's 12 hours of my life I can get back every 6 weeks. So, the floor is yours, gentlemen.
You want to go, Andy? I'm ready if you're not.
Go on, sir. You go. I've got a few.
Okay. This week's SmackDown. I'm a big fan of the SmackDown 6 going back like 20 years. You remember we had like Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Edge,
Rey Mysterio, Edge,
and Kurt Angle and
Chavo.
There we go. Yeah. SmackDown wrestling was like at a peak then in the tag team division. And I feel like despite a little bit of a mess and a little bit of repetitive booking at the start of the year, we're coming back to the same kind of pinnacle with SmackDown's tag division. We've got some great teams on there. Personally, I've been a huge fan of seeing Fraction get moved up, get up to not 1, 2, 3, 4, but now 5-0 in tag team matches. The build has been great. We've got direction for like every team in the division, of which there's now like 7 or 8 semi-regular teams. And what happens this week? The Wyatt 6, there's 5 of them, so the name makes no sense for starters, absolutely shat all over the division. It was just like, I nearly turned the show off, right? The Wyatt 6 at this point, spooky bollocks. It's not even fucking Halloween. There's no room or time for any of that. We've just shat on the best thing that SmackDown had going.
Yeah.
That's my unpopular
opinion.
opinion.
Tommaso Ciampa hit a very inside the joke line before the Wyatt Six came out there this week. He said he wanted to hold a moment of silence for the death of the SmackDown Tag Team division.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. As you both know, I like spooky bollocks in wrestling. I do. Right. I love The Undertaker. I love Aleister Black. I like spooky bollocks in wrestling. However, the Wyatt Six needs to go away.
Yes.
Yeah.
God rest you, Bray. I love you to pieces. You made a lot of difference in a lot of people's lives. But your brother is no longer honoring your memory. He's cashing a check on your name. And one, I think it's disrespectful.
I think that's a bit harsh because I don't think it's his choice, really.
No, okay. Well, in that case, the company is now cashing a check on Bray's name. And I think that's disrespectful. And I don't think the angle has got any legs.
Can I add to this at the risk of being controversial? I believe the same can be said for Mark Briscoe in AEW.
Yeah. I think my unpopular opinion is the Wyatt Six again. Like, since they've been there, what have they actually done? Because they've had no feuds, no thing. They just keep turning up and doing stuff and then going missing and then coming back again.
What happened was they got murdered by the Final Testament, then the Final Testament all got fired.
I know, but still crap. Just like, honest to God. And Nikki, the other unpopular opinion is Nikki Cross looks stupid.
She does.
That's not an unpopular opinion. That's straight up facts.
Nikki Cross is not a bad wrestler at all. I don't even hate Dexter Lumis like a lot of people do. Eric Rowan is good at what he does in a limited way.
Sebastian Shaw was really good as Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah. I mean, just shave your goatee off, shave your hair off, and just give us like Dexter's version of Stone Cold because he looks exactly like him. But there are good individuals in this group, but the way it's presented and the way it's just don't keep flogging a dead horse, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. It's time to drop it.
Yeah. Also, my last unpopular opinion of the week is I don't get why Ric Flair doesn't get Hogan level hate.
After what Rick pulled the last, Rick has decided that he would accuse Jim Ross of attention seeking after Jim decided to let everybody know his colon cancer surgery went well.
It's just a tit. Oh, God, some of the stuff he says all the time, just go away.
Rick is unfortunately deluded, I believe, in his age. He honestly believes he's the best to ever do it, which he's more than entitled to believe. But at a certain point, people need to go away. And I think Ric Flair has reached that point where he just needs to go away. You're nearly 80. Give it a rest. Yeah. Right, lads. And 3 minutes later than normal, that's the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy what we do here at Wrestling Legion, if you can stand the content that we put out, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and just, leave a like, leave a comment, do whatever you can. Just let us know what you think. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Do you vehemently disagree with us? Probably the last one. But I've been Nick the Geek. That has been Andy. That has been Simon. And remember, we are but three geeks obsessed with a good show. And our opinion means nothing without yours in the comments below. See you next week.
Wrestling Legion. Most weeks we make it make sense. This week, we didn't.